Update. A mutual friend propositioned my newlywed wife for sex and affair. What's the best way to respond? Original post. So my wife is a bombshell 10 over 10. But more than that, she's an amazing woman. Compassionate, funny, caring, loyal, and awesome. And some of her friendly qualities are often mistaken as flirting or expressing interest. So with a heavy heart, she's now much more guarded when conversing with strangers. With old friends, she's her usual friendly self as they know her. But alas, now one incident has caused her to pull back from interacting freely with friends too. So we just got married last week, and on Sunday night, we hosted a small dinner for a few of our close friends. Now, one of those close friends has had a crush on my wife for a while now. Nothing serious, but she knew and told me immediately, and then cut all unnecessary communication with him. That sucked for her because his wife is a good friend of my wife, and because of his obvious crush, they couldn't meet as often. We thought he would get over it, but on Sunday nights, he cornered my wife for 5 minutes and delivered his love speech about how I had to have her, and now he couldn't sleep knowing that she's married to me. How true love knows no boundaries or rules, love can't be constrained, and it should be free and so on and so forth. She immediately came and told me, but we didn't make a scene as there were other friends there too. Now she's royally pissed. It wants to expose him to all our friend group as he might have done the same thing to others too, or he might in the future. I'm of the opinion that we should cut contact with him but don't do anything more than that. What's the best way forward? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Dude, you obviously tell his wife and then follow her lead with us. As if you just want to sweep this under the rug. At least be a good person and look out for the wife of this scumbag. Who would want to be married to that with some of your friends knowing what kind of a person he is? Come on. True love knows no boundaries or rules. Love can't be constrained and it should be free. Also make sure she's never alone with this creep, and she is aware she should be careful around him. It sounds like he is obsessed. It might even have deluded himself in thinking your wife loves him too. Right? This bloke is so clearly off his rocker to have been saying the things he was spouting. Yeah. Someone giving a speech like that, especially a married person, is giving me real bunny boiler alarm bells. His wife needs to know, and your friend circle needs to make sure that she's never left alone with him. P.S. The OP's wife is great. Open and honest relationships are the best. I would 100% in your wife's shoes tell his wife who is her friend because that's obsessive, creepy, and disgusting. It's not cool to just let the other wife be married to this man. Yes, hiding this from her is just gross. She deserves to know exactly who she's married to. A sleazy little creep man. Your wife is right. Tell his wife and everyone on your friend circle. Then kick him loose from your friend circle. He disrespected your wife. Your marriage, and his wife by making such a statement. Don't buy the excuse that he was drunk or he was not in his senses. And now for the update. So I got a lot of good advice and some well-deserved criticisms about my behavior too. It was indeed not right for me to take it as lightly as I appeared to do. Believe me, I wanted to fight him, but it would not have solved any issue, only created more. But one thing the majority of the commenters got right was that I should have fully supported her desire to go nuclear on him, and I appreciate the honesty from you guys. So anyways, I went and told her that I am sorry I was not more supportive, and I'm now 100% behind her, even if it means I have to kick his butt. She laughed, and said she has devised a plan of action. She was going to talk to his wife first, and then inform all the women in our friend group as she thought it would be irresponsible for her to ignore his behavior in case he tries, / already tried with anyone else. So she called his wife for lunch today, and she told her. His wife was heartbroken, and I stepped away to give her some freedom to vent. I went out, and came back when my wife messaged me that she had gone. She told me that his wife confessed that it had happened once before too when they lived somewhere else. Apparently, she seemed almost resigned to the fact because she wasn't angry. Rather, she was sad. And when my wife told her that she will be telling other women of his behavior, she didn't protest. My wife has called everyone for lunch on Sunday, and that's when she will tell them. She even feels bad about the wife, but feels it's kind of a moral responsibility to warn everyone. I'm in complete agreement here. That's the update. And I'm going to treat my wife to some homemade pizza tonight since she's so awesome. Yeah, I can make pizza. Lol. Thanks for the suggestion, guys. Backing your wife is the right move. And your wife handled it like a champ. Telling his wife in private and even letting her know she's going to tell the other women in the group. Good update. Sounds like your wife is a 10 on the outside and at least a 12 on the inside. So glad you took the advice to support her 100%. I hope you will continue to do so. Best of luck. Oh, I love moderately happy endings. And I love it when OPs actually listen to the advice given to them and it all works out. I only say moderately because I feel so bad for his wife. I hope she'll finally work up the courage to leave him. Next story. Update. Found out my best friend's girlfriend is hitting on my fiancé. Original post. My fiancé, male 28, and I, female 26, have a beach vacation coming up. It was supposed to be us, my sister and her husband. Circumstances changed and they won't be joining us, but their tickets are non-refundable. So we decided to invite my brother-in-law's brother Nate, male 27, who has also been my best friend since we were toddlers, and his girlfriend Kathy, female 27. We are all very close and hang out almost every week. We all have a group chat for the trip, and Kathy and I discuss girly stuffs privately. Last week, Kathy sent my fiancé some lingerie and bikini pictures, asking for a suggestion in his private chat. Fiancé assumed she sent it to him accidentally instead of me, and told her that. To which she said she wanted a man's opinion. And my fiancé said he didn't really have any opinion, and she should ask me or her boyfriend. He then showed me the messages when we both got home from work. We both thought it was weird and just moved past it. Side note, she never sent me anything asking for my opinion, even though a couple days later I asked for her opinion on some dresses. On Sunday, Nate and Kathy came to our house for dinner and to discuss our upcoming trip. Everything went great. I got a video call from my sister and brother-in-law and I was talking to them in the balcony, and Nate came to say hi to his brother. According to my fiancé, when Nate left the room, Kathy brought up the pictures and was asking him his opinion and even showed him pictures of her in lingerie, and some of them were very revealing. Fiancé was cornered by her in the kitchen where he was clearing up some dishes. I called him from the balcony to participate in the video call since my sister had some news. This was when he was able to get away from her. If it's relevant, she was a bit drunk. My fiancé told me this after they left, and I am pissed at her. We both felt like all this happened too fast, and there weren't really any other signs. He also asked me to look through their chat to see if he was oblivious to her or something. There wasn't really much correspondence between them, except the occasional confirming of plans. I don't really know how to approach this with Nate and Kathy. I don't really want her on this trip if she's going to act like this. And also, fiancé's not at all comfortable with the idea. Nate is like a brother to me. I love him, and I don't want this to destroy our friendship. Also, given the situation, he deserves a lot better. So guys, what should I do? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You have to talk to Nate. Show him the text messages. There's no two-way about it. Should we talk to them both or only to Nate first? It's a tricky situation. But as your relationship is with Nate, so I would say talk to just him. You and your fiancé, start off by saying you're sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Tell him you didn't know how to go about approaching him on this, but you feel he needs to know and the situation is making things uncomfortable for you and your fiancé, and then just hand him the phone. Just be honest about it. It's going to be a mess no matter what, but it'll be shadier if you don't tell them. We are definitely going to bring it up. I don't want her to turn things around and blame my fiancé. I know Nate is going to be hurt, but I want to minimize it as much as possible. Your fiancé should just straightforward tell her, listen, this is all awkward. I'd expect her to gaslight as well, but you can back him up. Things will take care of themselves after the confrontation, if at all she's weird. We are supposed to leave for the trip on Saturday. We all have work till Friday. I don't know how to make time for confrontation. They work opposite shifts, so that's an issue too. I don't know who I should talk to first. Thanks for the advice. We are both taking afternoon off and are going to meet Nate tomorrow for lunch. He works night shift. Told him not to tell Kathy anything as it's about the personal family stuff. Didn't tell him that fiancé would be there too. So hopefully he won't tell her anything. Do you still have the pictures as evidence? Do not go with her on the trip. She's trying to make the moves on your fiancé. Yes, we plan on showing him the pictures. They have been together for about 4 years, but we all know each other since we were kids, except my fiancé. And now for the update. Some of you wanted an update, so here it goes. My fiancé and I took the afternoon off work to meet with Nate, best friend, for lunch yesterday. Fiancé was running a bit late, so I reached the restaurant first. Nate and I were catching up, and he talked about how he misses hanging out just the two of us like when we were younger. I felt a bit guilty lying to him, so I told him fiancé was joining in sometime as well. He started thanking me for inviting him on a trip. Apparently, due to their conflicting schedules, Nate and Kathy weren't spending much time together, and their relationship was tense. He said that this trip would be the best thing for them, and he was really excited. Fiancé arrived at the tail end of this conversation, and I felt so sad for Nate. I was almost ready to forgo the conversation altogether. We basically apologized to him, and I told him that fiancé had something to say. Fiancé told him about the messages and what happened in the kitchen. Nate was in disbelief. Shock? But he was very quiet. He asked if he had the messages, and fiancé showed him. Then Nate said, now it makes sense. We were confused. It asked what he was talking about. Apparently when they left, Kathy was pretty drunk. And whole drive home, Kathy was mumbling things like nobody wants me, /likes me, /loves me, etc. In the last couple days after the incident, she was acting strange the little time they spent together. We told him we are there for him, obviously whatever he decides, but that we don't feel comfortable having Kathy on the trip, but he's still welcome. He said he would be talking to Kathy and letting us know, but they won't be joining us on the trip. Tonight before work, Nate stopped by our house and told us that he broke up with Kathy. He said he found some things but wasn't ready to talk about it yet. Since they used to live together, she couldn't move out anywhere immediately, so Nate will be staying at our place for a while. Also, both fiancé and I got an apology text from Kathy. So, I guess that's it. We are not really in the mood now for the trip, but maybe it would be a good way to put this all behind. It might be selfish, but I'm just grateful that Nate and I's friendship is still going strong, and that he trusts us to help him through the stuff he's going through. Thank you to everyone for their advice. I think you all should still go on that trip. Y'all should let homewrecker wreck your plans too. Bring your friend. It would suck for him to be alone. Yes, that's what my fiancé and I were talking about just now. We don't want him to be alone. I guess it's time for another confrontation to make him agree to come with us, and maybe bring some other friend, so he won't feel like the third wheel, because that was his argument. If he comes, make sure that you have activities planned, so that everyone isn't sitting around moping, and that you and your fiancé have some time alone as well. Your fiancé was basically harassed and needs a break as well. This trip was actually planned as a romantic getaway, but we are going to move some things around and include non-couple/group activities. Fiancé and I will have time for us as well. Nate loves photography, so there will be something to do for him at all time. Good for Nate. It's a crappy situation, but it'll be better for it in the end. It speaks highly of your friendship that he trusts you so completely. He is an amazing person. I just hope everything works out for him and he's happy ASAP. OMG, if you do deliberately send underwear pictures to someone and they immediately respond with, I think this was supposed to be for my girlfriend, wrong number, then clearly they're not going to be into instigating an affair with you. So why would you push it? Kathy not only had severe issues with her insecurity, she also really wasn't smart about being unfaithful. Now for the last story. My boyfriend 29 male kissed my sister 24 female while I, 28 female, was asleep in another room with our baby. I, 28 female, have been with my partner 29 male for 4 years now. We have a daughter together, 1 female, and we also have partial care for a son from a previous relationship, 6 male. Recently, he and I moved in with my family, my mother and sister 24 female, to save for a house deposit. We have been there for about 6 months now. And Friday night, I had gone to bed with my daughter while my sister and my partner stayed up drinking and talking. He came in to check on us periodically throughout the evening. I thought everything was normal, until yesterday morning. My sister, who had recently come out of an awful relationship, started telling me that she thought my partner sometimes behaved horribly towards me. It's worth noting she has hinted at this in the past, but she's never told me to get rid of him before now. Thinking this was strange, I called my partner and asked him if he could think of a reason she would be so angry with him. He danced around it for a bit, and then he told me that he and my sister had done cocaine together, which is a betrayal in itself because he knows my views on this, particularly around our daughter. And then they shared a kiss. He said that it didn't go further than that. When I spoke to my sister, she said that he tried to force himself on her. I don't think he would have done that, but I can't believe he tried it on with her. My sister is playing the victim hardcore, and she's telling me to leave him, and now my mother doesn't want him in her house. I'm staying with a friend right now, but my boyfriend, my sister, and mother are all blowing up my phone. He is incredibly apologetic. He cried and gave me flowers. I don't know what to believe. Both of their stories keep changing. Despite everything, I do love him, and I'm strongly considering taking him back. Guys, what should I do? If their stories keep on changing, it could be more than a kiss. Not sure if it matters if/when/how they change. There's no way of getting around the fact, assuming these things are true, that things happened and were hidden from OP. Would it matter who brought this substance? No, he did them. Violation of trust. Would it matter who initiated a kiss? Not really, it takes two. Violation of trust. Would it matter whether you were asleep, outside, running errands, etc.? No. That you were with your child makes it worse, but the facts don't change. Would it matter if they went further than a kiss? Not really, unless your relationship boundaries are such that a kiss would be permissible. Violation of trust. OP, I think you should focus on the fact that your trust was and now, as stories change continues, to be violated. Not in the surrounding details that keep changing, or in context that frankly isn't at the center of this. OP, the reality of what you presented is that they did drugs. They kissed, at a minimum. That doesn't seem likely to change. If you wish to forgive one or both, if you wish to take one or both back into your life, that's up to you. Aside from the situation now, why did your sister think he's acting horribly towards you? For me, the worst thing in this situation is not the kiss, but the coke. It's your mother's home, and you were there with your toddler. Why the heck does he feel he needs to do coke there with your sister? And he did that knowing you wouldn't like it. For me, that's a big red flag. And if I were you, I would consider leaving him for that. Or giving him the opportunity to go to couples therapy together so he can show he want to work on him and his relationship. I think she thinks he is horrible because he can sometimes be bossy and condescending. I call him out on it in private, and we discuss it and move on. I have already mentioned couples therapy to him. He seemed receptive. Update. I told my mom how jealous I am of my half-siblings and now she won't stop crying. I, 16 male, was born to my mom when she was 15 and I've never known my real dad. My mom didn't drop out of school or anything, and the year after I was born, she started dating Jack. And when they went to university, I obviously got left behind with my grandparents. Mom and Jack got good degrees, got married and moved to Vancouver. My mom's always been in my life. She would still come home every weekend just to cuddle with me and would always give me these nicknames, but calling me her special guy was her favorite one. She'd always bring me back presents and gifts and spend the whole time playing with me. She's the one who paid for my tutoring and after-school stuff and would try and make it to games and stuff like that. Jack wouldn't always come with her, but it was always fun when he would. He's taken me fishing with him a lot of times and we even went camping for 2 weeks together once, but never again because I hate camping. But when I was 10, my mom and Jack had a daughter and then another girl 3 years ago. I don't really know them, especially because my mom stopped coming over as much after they were born. We don't cuddle anymore. We did on my birthday, but that's it. No more cute nicknames for me except for special guy. It's like they all got transferred to her daughters. No more gifts, and the worst part is, she doesn't come to my games anymore. It was okay with me before, because they still had a spare room in their house and I could go there when it's time for university. Yesterday, my mom FaceTimed and she had the big announcement that she was going to have another baby, and it was a boy. And now she'd have 2 special guys. I guess she saw how sour my face was, because she asked what's wrong. And I don't know, I just admitted how jealous I was that her daughters got her so much. And now her son was going to get her. There wouldn't even be space for me there when I had to go to university. And I guess what I said affected her because she started crying and wouldn't stop and had to hang up. My grandparents are mad that I made her upset and think I don't value them now or something. Jack phoned me and he's mad because my mom thinks it's a mistake now to have another kid. And also mad at me, and he was like, why would I ever think they wouldn't have a room for me? I feel like I really messed up telling her that. And here I am at school writing about it on Reddit because I can't stop thinking about it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I don't know why all the adults in your life are blaming you, a child, for your very valid feelings about this. They should be trying to make you feel more comfortable and included, rather than try to smother your genuine feelings. Your mom feels bad because she should. She's in her 30s now. There's no reason why she can't be around you anymore. There's no reason OP should be living with his mother. If she's supporting her own family and having kids, the grandparents' time of raising OP should be over now. I questioned why Opie's mom doesn't have him living with her. I was surprised when Mom finished college, she didn't move her son into her home. No wonder he feels neglected. I feel like Jack played a big role in why he's not living with them. It's horrible when new partners don't accept children from previous relationships and treat them with love and respect. I understand that the children must also treat the new partner with love and respect. But adults are adults. Children are children. Some adults don't have maturity and so many stepchildren feel unloved. Why couldn't you move back once she graduated and started another family? She can't have her cake and eat it too. Unless the grandparents formally adopted him, then he is still her child. She passed the buck completely and her parents enabled her. Not helped. They enabled the abandonment. It baffles me how people can just leave kids and start completely new families. And now they've decided that he should have suffered in silence, so none of the adults are required to feel bad about what they've done. And now for the update. So I posted on Friday at school, and when I come home, my mom and Jack and their kids were already there talking to my grandparents. As soon as my mom saw me, she gave me such a big hug she actually lifted me up for a second, which is weird because I'm taller than her now, and then wouldn't stop kissing me on the face and telling me she loves me. I said hi to everyone, and my grandparents had my mom take me into my room to talk to me alone. In my room, she told me she was sorry that I felt like she'd been paying me less attention, and that a new baby isn't going to replace me, and I'd always be her special guy. I started crying, so we weren't able to talk until I calmed down, and then Jack came in and joined us. I just admitted that I felt like I wasn't that important to my mom anymore, and if they were having a boy, then there would be no point in them taking me when it's time for university. And then Jack left because he kind of started crying hearing me say that, and that was weird. My mom told me that she wanted to take me when I was 13 and going into high school because she thought that was the best time to do it. Except she argued with my grandparents about it a lot, and they said it was best if I stayed with them. Then when my mom took me to a game, she saw how much fun I was having with my friends and thought they were right. When I said I wanted to go to SFU, she and Jack were happy because it meant I would be with them when I graduated. When I asked about the spare room that was meant to be mine, she admitted that they hadn't thought about what would be the baby's room and would have to figure something out since they aren't giving up my room. My mom told me she'd come and take me every weekend because she said it was wrong that she started paying less attention to me but thought it was okay because I was independent and had my grandparents. She said that she wanted me to spend my breaks with them as well. I don't want to leave my high school, but my mom said I could do that for my grad year if I wanted to move in with them earlier. I did have a talk with Jack too, and he told me that he was glad I confessed everything and that his parents got mad at him for not telling me that when he called me. We did all have a fun weekend together, except my grandparents because they don't leave the house due to COVID. And I do want weekends to keep being like that. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep doing updates here, so this might be the only one. But hopefully this will help calm down everyone who keeps messaging this account for one. Seems like a lot of his grief could have been prevented if the adults had asked him if he wanted to remain with grandparents or go with mom, or even at least explain to him the reasoning behind him not going. Absolutely. I remember reading in the comments that their decision to keep him with his grandparents was supposedly fueled by a child psychologist recommending against removing him from the environment he was used to. But he was like 10 years old at that point. Shouldn't they have taken his opinion into consideration? Truly a sad situation for OP. I hope things turn out well for him. A psychologist told my parents to make me homeless when I was struggling as a teen. There are some bad ones out there. A psychologist told me a few weeks ago, during a first appointment by telephone where it was clear she was driving and not paying attention to me, that I couldn't have been diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum because I seemed fine to her, and I just needed to go out and meet people. Then she recommended I read a book on Freud and ended the session 20 minutes early. So yeah, some therapists are absolute joke. I'm glad about the outcome, but I despise how the first reaction after a teen voicing their feelings is anger and guilt-tripping from all adults involved. The kid is 16, voices how he feels and why, and stepdad gets mad, grandparents get mad and jealous. It's infuriating. Also, no one ever communicated with him. At least Opie learned that skill. I couldn't agree more. The poor kid was basically left alone to feel like he was the one who did something wrong, when all he did was voice his very valid feelings. Every adult in the story, not just the mother, should seriously apologize to him for how they reacted to this whole thing. And I really hope they all learn to communicate with OP better. It could have been just a choice of word by OP. However, if his mom actually said, "I'm sorry you feel like," that's such an a-hole thing to say. You're basically saying I don't agree with how you're feeling. I've read several posts of parents getting remarried and or having more offspring and just almost forgetting their first offspring exists. Like they think they can get a total do-over at being a parent, and are Pikachu shocked when their offspring voiced displeasure. Yes, lady, your son who you have kind of forgotten about is not gonna be exactly thrilled when you tell him you're gonna have another son when you barely interact with him as it is. Then in like a decade or two, the parents are gonna be shocked that their offspring wants nothing to do with them and just have no idea what they did wrong. Last story. I don't feel guilty about the loss of my sister's son. So I, female 24, was 7 or 8 at the time this happened. My older sister Susan, 37, was 20 or 21 and she had a newborn baby. Our mom was at work at a time, so it was me, my sister, and the baby at home. We didn't have a dad, and all of our relatives live in another country, so we were at my sister's care. My sister was always someone who likes to go out with friends, to parties, and wasn't often home, until she was pregnant and had the baby. So, she only could go out and have fun when our mom had a day off. Our mom was always understandable of my sister, being that she was now a single mom too as the baby's father bailed out, and Susan missed her friends and her previous lifestyle. But was also angry sometimes because her day off was spent babysitting my sister's child, cleaning and cooking. And with time, there were more and more arguments, since my sister only cleaned her room and only cooked for herself. Sometimes I tried to intervene, but my mom only sent me to my room. So this day, I remember I was watching the TV at a time, and Susan comes up to me and says that she's going out with her friend for only a couple of hours and that I had to take care of the baby. I never liked babies, and no one bothered to teach me how to care for one, only that they drink milk from a bottle and that they use diapers. I was a little shocked and scared, and said that she was supposed to take care of us, and I didn't know anything at all about babies. But my sister ignored me and told me to just take care of him. A little while later, the baby started crying, so I went to my sister's room and tried to figure out what he wanted, but started to freak out. I ran to the kitchen and tried to give him the bottle, but he didn't want it. I tried to give him toys, his blanket, and didn't want it. I tried everything I could think of at a time, but he only cried louder and louder, and I was getting more scared and ran to my room. I put on headphones and hid under the covers and hoped that either Susan or my mom would come home soon and fell asleep. When I woke up, my mom was already home and was calling Susan screaming, but she didn't get home yet. And there was an ambulance and I was really scared again because I understand nothing at a time. And my mom came up to me and hugged me and asked where Susan was, and I told her what happened. It was noon when my sister left, and early night when my mom came home, by the way. I could tell that she was angry but tried to not show it. She asked if I knew where she was, but I didn't. And I asked her what happened and she just told me not to worry, that everything was going to be okay. Later that night, my sister came home and our mom lost it and screamed at her. And Susan screamed back, and so on. I couldn't handle all the screaming, so I was going to my room, but at that moment I heard my sister and felt her grabbing my arm until it hurt. I got scared and started crying, and my sister was screaming at me too. I don't remember most of what she said, but I remember bits like, "It was your fault," and "You're a little monster," until my mom made her free me and I ran to my room and locked the door. The days later after that, Susan was cold and ignored me. She was either in her room or out, but when she was home, I was afraid of being left alone with her. So I began locking my bedroom door often until my mom was home. Things worsened when Susan came home smelling of alcohol and screaming at me to open my door sometimes. I never did because, again, I was terrified, and my mom had enough and kicked her out. A few months later, my mom got therapy for her and me separately. My mom never told me anything then about what happened, and I never saw my sister again until I was about 17. I used to ask my mom how she was, and she just told me that she was doing good. When I saw her again when she came home to visit, and I was a little bit in shock and on edge. I was glad to see her, of course, but also weirded out because I remembered how she treated me when I was younger. It was my mom's day off, so we were all in the kitchen talking about normal stuff like work, grades, relatives, etc. Until my sister out of the blue says that she thinks she deserves an apology. I was confused and didn't know if she was referring to me or Mom. And Susan looks at me and says that I have to apologize to her for what happened. I asked what she was talking about, and my mom told my sister to get out. But Susan started to raise her voice and tell me to say sorry for what I did to her baby and that it was my fault that he died. My mom dragged her to the door and closed it when Susan was out while I was still shocked and didn't know what to do or say. After that, my mom explained very briefly what happened and that they talked about reuniting us because Susan felt ready to see me again and wanted to make peace, but didn't expect that to happen. For the full story, she waited until I was 18 to tell me. So what happened was, while I was sleeping in my room, somehow the baby suffocated. My sister blames me for what happened because she left me in charge of him. My mom found him and called the ambulance, but it was too late. Blamed my sister for being irresponsible and leaving not only her little sister, but her own child as well, just to go partying. For a while, I was still processing the info. But in the end, I understand that I was just a kid and didn't have any idea on how to do anything for a baby. And when I got overstimulated and stressed, I panicked and hid where I felt safe. However, my sister has been trying to contact me recently. She says it's because, like she told my mom, wants to reconnect and resolve this. I was on the fence about it because of the past experiences, so I talked about this to my mom and my therapist before doing anything. I relented at the end to meet with her, but only in a public place to make sure she doesn't do anything crazy. We went to a cafe, and again, like the previous time, everything was normal at the beginning. But after a bit of a small talk, my sister told me it was time that I apologize. I began to leave and pay for my part, then I told her that there was nothing for me to apologize for. She tried to follow me telling me awful stuff. Again, that it was my fault and I'm a murderer and hoped I never have children, and raised her voice more once we were outside. I ended up telling her that I couldn't care anymore about her or her baby, that she was the irresponsible adult who left 2 children at home by themselves, and I didn't feel guilty about it because I knew it wasn't my fault her son died, that I only feel absolute apathy towards her, and to never contact me again. I then left as fast as I could because I couldn't stand being near her while she was screaming and crying. I admit I did feel bad about her and her baby before, but after this meeting, I had enough of her crap, and her blaming a confused and scared child for the death of her son. When I got home, I told everything to my mom, and we agreed that if she tried anything, next time we called the police. So that's it. I just wanted to let all of this out. I tried to be as specific as I could from what I remember, what I've been told, and what I wrote in my diary at a time. Feel better now. Now for the comments. Her actions caused the death of her son and gave you trauma for life, and she had the audacity to say she hopes you never have children? She should have been prosecuted for neglect and child endangerment. Glad your mom is supporting you. You were a child. Your sister was the adult. She is 100% responsible for what happened. You were not. She's just trying to put the blame on you because she's too much of a coward to admit it was her fault. Who in their right mind leaves a baby behind with a 7 or 8-year-old? Especially without explaining them how to take care of a child. I mean, I basically raised my sister at age 10, which is still 2 to 3 years older than Opie's age. Though I was parentified, which isn't good, I was explained how to do it all before my baby sister was dumped on me. I was also a single mom at the age of 20, living with my own mom. I never really went out to party, but I did go out with friends a few times. But I never would have left my baby alone with a child. Wouldn't even leave any of my kids alone to people who doesn't agree to take care of them, no matter their age. I have an 8-year-old son, 6-year-old daughter, and 10-month-old daughter. The most my older kids have to do is entertain baby for a couple of minutes while I prepare her food or when I go pee. Am I the a-hole for not telling my brother-in-law about the college account we have for his daughter? My 40 female husband, Robert, 45 male, and I are child-free by choice. I'm an only child, but Robert has a brother, Samuel, and Samuel has a daughter, Shelby, who is 17 and a senior in high school. Shelby's mom and Samuel split up when Shelby was 3, and he's never been a very enthusiastic father and did not file for custody, but he gets visitation and pays court-ordered child support. Several years ago, Samuel told Robert that he wasn't saving anything for Shelby for college. He said Shelby's mom can pay for it out of the child support I sent her every month. When I heard this, I suggested that we start saving some money each year in an account for Shelby that we would give her when she was ready for college. We started putting money aside each year and we invested it well. So now the account is almost $35,000 in it. We didn't tell anyone about the account because we didn't know how much we would be able to save. And we didn't want Shelby to count on money that wouldn't be there. I have some chronic health problems and we thought we might end up needing the money we had saved for Shelby. But I'm doing better, so we are now comfortable giving it to her. A couple years ago, Samuel lost his job. He looked for a new one but didn't seem to be looking very hard. Whenever Robert asked him about it, Samuel would say he would find something when he really needed to, but that he was enjoying having some time off. We assumed he was living off his savings. He got a new job about a year later and has been working that job since. Last month, Shelby started looking into colleges, so we decided we should tell her about the account because knowing the money was available might influence her decisions about where to apply. Shelby was very excited, but Samuel hit the roof. He called Robert and screamed at him about how he could really have used that money to pay his child support while he was unemployed. Then Robert's mom called and started screaming too. Apparently, Robert's parents were actually making Samuel's child support payments while Samuel was unemployed, even though they retired and on a fixed income. Nobody ever told us that, and Samuel never asked us for a loan or anything, and he seemed really nonchalant about not having a job. Now Robert feels terrible because his parents spent a bunch of money on Samuel while he had $30,000 in a savings account. He says we should have told them about the account and offered to help Samuel out. I pointed out that we didn't know for sure that we wouldn't need the money until recently, and that Samuel could have gotten a job to make ends meet rather than taking money from his parents. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. That money's for college, not child support. I'm shocked how everyone is giving the brother-in-law a pass for being a deadbeat dad, and nobody's praising you for giving the poor child an opportunity for a better future. Yeah, and his parents paying it too. While he was enjoying having some time off. If Opie had shared that they had this money and shared the money, then his brother would have just taken longer to find a job because he wouldn't have felt he really needed it. You know what that waste of space would have done? Still take money from his parents and squander that poor child's college fund. Not a a-hole. You and your husband are not responsible for his brother. It is not your husband's fault his parents were covering child support payments. They should be mad at your brother-in-law because he was so nonchalant about not having a job. It is unfortunate for them, but not in a way you and your husband's fault. No kidding. They attacked the responsible son at Opie who did a lovely thing for their granddaughter, instead of the deadbeat son who apparently was fine with his parents taking on his responsibilities. You wonder if mother-in-law/father-in-law enabled Samuel his whole life. This is messed up. Opie and husband sound like the responsible kind of people in this family. Glad Denise has them. Not a a-hole. Sounds like mother-in-law was enabling brother-in-law's lack of need to find a job. She does tend to enable him. I was really surprised when I heard they were making his child support payments. I could understand if Samuel really couldn't find a job, but there always seemed to be jobs available in his field, and he really didn't seem to be looking very hard. Next story. Am I the a-hole for no longer handing my son his allowance after I found out my husband's been taking it? My son, 10, recently started receiving allowance from me since his dad is unemployed, and also because my son likes to have his own money to spend on stuff he wants. The problem is that I discovered by accident that my husband has been taking the money from our son to buy his own stuff, like cigarettes or a drink. He'd approach our son whenever he has money and tell him he'll buy him what he wants, but ends up spending the money on something else. Something for him, not our son. Our son obviously cannot drive by himself and buy his own stuff, so my husband offers to buy stuff for him using, of course, his allowance. I'm a nurse working long shifts most of the time, so I'm not always home. Every time our son wants something, my husband would be like, "Hey bud, you want a few bags of Doritos for you and the other kids? I'll stop by supermarkets and get them for you then." That would be X amount. Then our son gives him the money, but never receives his Doritos. Rinse and repeat. This went on for 2 months until my son told me. Turns out my husband asked not to tell mommy because she'd get mad at him and he'll be in trouble, and promised to get him his stuff, but he never does. I had a big fight with my husband about it, but he said it wasn't a big deal since he always ends up getting our son the stuff he wants 99% of the time. He told me to consider this as gas money since he drives a number of kilometers to the supermarket to buy what our son wants. I shamed him for taking advantage of our son and taking the money that was meant for him. and said I was acting like a thief, but worse when stealing from his own son. And then said I wouldn't be handing our son any allowance anymore. And my husband said I was overreacting and punishing our son for no reason. I said I'll handle our son's needs from now on, but he argued that I can't when I'm busy working all the time. I said it was none of his business and walked out the room. He kept nagging me, saying my son will resent me if I stop handing him money, but I refused to engage any further in the argument and guilt tripping. He keeps calling me heartless and financially controlling to take away the allowance. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and I think your problem is way deeper than the allowance issue. What your husband is doing is a real breach of trust. The father's literally stealing from his own son to buy cigarettes. My blood pressure would be through the roof. Not just stealing, but asking his son to keep secrets from his mother. That's not good or safe. What happens if another adult does something and tells the kid to keep it a secret? He'll think it's normal since his dad does the same thing. I have had the good secret, bad secret talk with all of my kids as soon as I think they are old enough. Super important for them to understand. But to have a parent breach trust like this is just terrible. This is very concerning behavior. He's stealing from your son, having your son lie to you, and now he's harassing and trying to manipulate you. I understand that this post is just a snapshot of your relationship, but is this honestly the marriage you want? Is this the role model you want for your son? Info. Why are you still with your husband when he's clearly taking advantage of your 10-year-old son? Why did she even get with him in the first place? He's nothing but a leech. I thought the title said X. When I got to the end of the post and realized this was a current husband, I was floored. My comment was literally going to be, I see why you divorced him. Next story. Am I the a-hole who got mad at my wife for eating all the food I had prepared? I and my wife have been married for 5 years, and she's now 3 months pregnant. My mom is diabetic, has high blood pressure, and has poor memory, so she has been staying with me and my wife for the past 2 years, as nursing homes are extremely expensive where I live. I usually do all the cooking at home, and we have one of those stovetop controllers that are password operated to ensure safety, in case my mom goes into the kitchen when I'm not at home. I also give my mom all her meds, as she's prone to forgetting whether she's taken meds or not. As usual, I prepared breakfast for the 3 of us, kept my mom's meds on her bedside table, and left for work. I got a call around 4 hours into my shoddy, saying my mom was in the emergency ward because she passed out from only having her meds and not her food. I rushed to the hospital and found my wife sitting in the emergency ward. When I asked her why my mom didn't eat despite me having cooked, she said that she, my wife, had eaten all the food because she was extra hungry. On top of all this, my wife gave my mom her diabetic meds thinking that she hadn't had them yet. I tried to keep calm, but seeing my mom like that made my blood boil, and I told my wife to just go home. She tried talking to me, but I told her not to test me and that I don't know how much longer I'll stay calm. I made her leave the hospital. She's been texting and calling me, but I haven't replied to her yet. My mom is conscious now, but the doctor said she's still disoriented, doesn't remember much, due to overdose of diabetic meds. She'll have to stay at the hospital for a few more days. Am I the a-hole? OMG, of course not the a-hole. Pregnant women do not develop a second stomach instead of a brain. She chose to not feed your mother knowing it could lead her to the ER, and gave her extra medicine without checking if you already gave her. What was she trying to do, honestly? Hungry? How starving do you have to be to choose to endanger someone? Side note, you need a pill distributor with different cases for each day, to be sure not to mess up. Oh wow, I have to look upon the pill distributor thing. For sure. Not the a-hole. Your wife could have seriously harmed your mom. At the very least, she could have called you to ask if she had been given her medications. However, she should have just assumed you had already given them to her because that's your responsibility. She also shouldn't have taken extra food without asking, as I know some medications require food for absorption. Actually, since this is medication to control blood sugar spike after meals, if you don't eat, blood sugar can get dangerously low due to the meds. Your wife also needs a lesson in diabetic management. She should have known not to give anti-hyperglycemics without checking. Not the a-hole. Your wife tried to kill your mom. She knew exactly what she was doing when she gave her those meds on an empty stomach. Pregnancy brain for me was putting my car keys in the fridge or briefly forgetting a simple math problem. Not eating everything when someone diabetic is in the house. My mom is diabetic and came to stay with us when I was in my 3rd trimester. Shockingly managed to mix up laundry detergent and fabric softener, but didn't eat all of the food. Pregnancy brain made my ex laugh because he'd found car keys in the most random of places. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for standing up for my daughter? Today we went trick-or-treating. My husband, my 2 daughters, 8 and 3, my stepkids, 11 and 8, his ex-wife, her husband. My husband started drinking before we left, and continued to drink at every house that offered drinks. He wasn't super drunk at the end, but he was a step or 2 above tipsy. After, we went to eat with the kids. I drove and he sat in the back with the kids. We were tired, cold, and hungry. He was being obnoxious and messing with the kids. I couldn't see, but I just heard my 8-year-old, who is not his bio child but has called him dad since she was 4, telling him to stop and she was getting upset. I told him to leave her alone. My daughter started crying and I snapped at him and told him to stop, and that the kids shouldn't be crying in order to get him to stop. We ate and all was good, but when we left, he started back up again. My daughter started crying and I yelled at him to stop acting like a freaking child. Respect your kids when they say stop. He said, I'm just having fun. He has a history of having fun at the expense of the kids. I said, you can't torment them and say you're just playing when you're the only one having fun. She doesn't like it, so stop. When we got home, he told my daughter that she needs to go to her room until she calms down. I told him she doesn't need to because she's not going to be punished for his behavior. He started on her, telling her all types of stuff about how she's a wimp, a crybaby, too sensitive, needs to toughen up, and that it's your mom's fault for cuddling you. She's raising a participation trophy brat. He was telling her he's trying to teach her to be tough, and she defended herself and yelled, "You're not teaching me anything. You're just tormenting me and trying to make me feel like being sensitive is bad." I stood up for my daughter. I told him he was out of line and he was not going to name-call my child. He tried to tell her it was her fault that we were arguing, and I told him it was his fault. We've been discussing him adopting her and in the privacy of our bedroom. I told him he was not adopting her because of his behavior. I went to the living room and said, "I'm never adopting you because you're a wimp." Daughter went to her room crying and I went to go to comfort her. I came in and gave a half-baked apology with excuses, blamed me for arguing with someone who is drinking, and thinks I'm wrong for not having his back from the start. My stepkids told him he was wrong. Then he gave a better apology, but it feels too late. He says he doesn't know how to play with her because she doesn't like his ribbing and always cries. I told him he has had 5 years to figure out how to bond in a way that she likes, and he's selfish for thinking that it's his way or no way. My daughter is still hurt. I'm still hurt. My stepkids are hurt, and he still thinks if I would have just told her to stop being a baby, it would have never gotten this far. He thinks I'm the a-hole, not him. Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Why are you with this monster? He is abusive as heck. He should never be alone with your children ever. You need to look out for the best interest of your children. Take your kids and go. You are not wrong for defending your child. You are the a-hole for putting her in this position with your life choices that directly involve the mistreatment of your children. She says he's had 5 years to bond with her daughter, which means Opie has had those same 5 years to realize what a complete jerk he is to her daughter and is still keeping him around. Sounds like he's been like this for 5 years, and Opie just assumes he's going to change? Opie, you're the a-hole. Your daughter needs out from this situation right now. It's long past due. Everyone sucks here, and I'm not quite sure why people are cuddling you with NTAs and NAHs. So this is it? This is the grand consequence to that crap trophy night? He was heavily drinking when he was on an activity with his children. He was repeatedly antagonizing your child to the point of tears even after being told off, and tried to punish her for the reaction to his harassment. After he was told off by you, he sought your daughter out for the express purpose of verbally and psychologically mistreating her with insults and name-calling. And when told he wouldn't get to adopt her because of behavior like this, he sought her out again to emotionally mistreat her some more. And not only are you telling us that this is just the worst instance of years of him amusing himself by mistreating the children, he is still doubling down on blaming and name-calling your daughter now he's sober again. And your response is running to Reddit to ask a bunch of strangers if you're an a-hole because you dared to defend her while this was going on? AKA the barest minimum one would expect of a mother. Shove your butt off of Reddit and start drawing hard lines. That guy needs to see a therapist. Your daughter too, if that's how he treats her. Because that's hardcore awful what he's doing. He needs to work through his behavior, which is horrible and not a dad persona, and change his acts real quick under guidance, or you need to remove your children from his influence. Him getting to stay in their life as their in-house tormentor and mistreat them some more but without being their adoptive father is not an acceptable deterrent or consequence. He can make active, measurable steps to change, or he can be removed from the equation. Now for the little update. I've read every single comment on this post and every DM. As I said, this was an eye-opening moment for me. I sent this post to my husband with the hope that it will open his eyes to see that it's time to break the cycle of awful behavior with professional help. I can't fix him. Otherwise, yes, this will be a deal breaker, and this will be the hill for my marriage to die on. I'm sorry I'm not understanding where everyone is getting the idea that he's treated her this way for 5 years. He's been in her life for 5 years. This is the first time anything like this has ever happened. He can be irritating and obnoxious. I'd have had to remind him when to back off with the teasing of all 4 kids, and he's backed off. That's as far as the history goes. But the damaging things he said last night is not the norm in our home. This is not me defending him. This is me saying no, I've not sat back for 5 years while my daughter is verbally and emotionally mistreated. He's normally a loving dad and our kids adore him, but the incident last night was the first of its kind, and it was one too many.